Damn these Biloxi blues, it happens every night. And I ain't ever met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine. The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting my nose
Low budget live, not so live. Let's hear it.
This highway does not know my name, and I don't care. No, I don't care.
Sure don't. Didn't when I wrote this song. Still don't.
Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low budget live, not so live, and welcome. That is, I've been getting lots of comments, which is just amazing to me. It's amazing. It's exciting. Makes my little Grinch heart go 3 sizes bigger. I forget what that is. I think I've mentioned that on Low Budget before, that Grinch reference, but I need to get it right. Need to get my Dr. Seuss right. But that is my song, Luke Duncan, Biloxi Blues from the album 64. It's the only album that I ever put out there, and all the songs I wrote over the years. And that was released back in 2013. But it's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, YouTube. That's Biloxi Blues for all you question askers out there. Try to comment back to everybody on that and on every comment. But welcome to the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill. And do we have a fun one tonight? You'll be hearing this tomorrow. So this is the podcast for Monday, December 9th, even though I am recording this on Sunday night. And it's been a wild weekend. Wild weekend. Started out, the triple threat and I, Marissa, she made me go Christmas shopping yesterday. She made me go Christmas shopping. And, I'm not a fan of that. I am very much one for the holidays and all that comes with it, but I am not one for malls. I am not one for Target. I'm not one for TJ Maxx. Look at me. Take one look at me and realize I'm not all about that life. But I did get treats and snacks. I did get some kind of milkshake contraption at the mall that was amazing. That my wife, she lured me in with that. I got to eat some sushi. Another terrible lunch. I think we had some more. Maybe some. We ate PUF Chang, so we had some double Asian yesterday. Double Asian. Good stuff. Good stuff. So I did get to eat. Made my fat self happy, which we still got to work on this at some point. It's coming. The Fat Ass Challenge number 2 is coming. Going to lose some weight. It's going to happen. I'm not going to keep living like this. But the weekend got started off like that. And then this afternoon, I was supposed to record this a couple hours ago with my guest tonight. And had to text him up, say, not going to happen. Because my man, Charlie, my 15-year-old, killed the biggest buck of his life tonight. I'm going to put a picture of it right here because I'm super proud of him. Absolutely one of the coolest moments I've ever had, deer hunting and in the outdoors all the way around. He was by himself, first deer by himself, biggest buck, only the second buck he's ever taken. It was chasing does. He had an incredible hunt, saw bobcats, saw several other little bucks, and just awesome. And when I got to him, he was so unbelievably excited. It was really cool. So to see a kid share your passion is always something very, very special. Very special. So got a little late start, but we're getting it in now. We are getting it in, and we do have a absolute fun guest tonight in Mr. Brandon Palaniuk. BP. BP is going to fill us in on all the deets that I haven't got to hear. I know he's been on other talk shows and whatnots, but we got it from the G-Man last week. We want it from BP himself right here on LBL, so we'll be reaching out to BP just here in a little bit. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week was good. I really, really do. I appreciate all the comments and all the love on the Swindle video. Swindle is... he's just amazing, man. He's we talked about it a ton last week, but that was the biggest podcast I've done in the history of doing this for the last couple of years. Tons of comments. You guys are big Swindle fans, and Swindle will be a regular on some LBL going forward, and we're trying to put a couple things together that we can all have fun with going forward. So thank you for that. Thank you for finding me. I'm getting a lot of that. Hey, man, I just found you. Hey, just found your channel. Thank you. Thank you. Glad you're here. If you are here, I'd like to say welcome. And if you're listening to this, if you have a set of ears, a set of eyes, some hands to comment, you can comment below if you got an invite to fish the FLW Tour next year. Man, every time I get on social media, somebody screenshot, congratulations, you qualified for the tour by having a pulse. It's crazy, man. Crazy times. The deadline for the tour was to sign up was last Monday to get your deposits in, and it doesn't look like they filled it by some of the guys I'm seeing posting, getting invites, and some of the guys that I've seen posting that they signed up and ready to roll, ready to fish, that haven't fished Costas, that haven't fished the tour in the last few years, and some of the guys I personally know that didn't re-qualify for the tour are back in. So, the qualifying regiment was out the window, and it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be an interesting year, to say the least, but I wish everybody the best of luck paying that $40,000, everybody the best of luck with all that this year, to say the least. But, yeah, I saw that. Doesn't look like they filled it. I may be completely wrong, totally wrong. They might have needed 3 spots, and they sent out a mass email. I have no idea. For FLW's sake, for the good folks that are still there that care a lot about it, I hope it does fill. Sure do. Hope it fills. We'll see. The field will definitely look way different than it ever has. Got a couple good friends of mine, though. Of course, John Cox is going to be over there. Brad Knight, Sammy George, little Sammykins is going to be over there. A lot of guys. Dylan Hayes, Matt Steffen, Matt Becker. Still a lot of guys over there that can really, really catch them, that are really good guys, really good promoters, and there'll definitely be some fishing to watch there, to say the least. Just some of those names you're accustomed to are definitely gone, and one of the names that's gone, that's the most recognizable name affiliated with FLW, is not an angler. No, not an angler. It comes in the form of a sponsor, and that is, and this is something I've been alluding to a little bit that I thought was coming down the pipeline, but that is Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Ranger Boats, no longer a tour sponsor, no longer an FLW sponsor, and that is that's a shocker, to say the least. You've got a 30 years now, before a lot of you were born, 30-year relationship between Ranger, Operation Bass, which was what it was called before it was bought by Irwin Jacobs, turned into FLW, but a 30-year relationship between Ranger Boats and FLW that's no longer there. And if you remember a couple podcasts ago, 3 podcasts ago, I talked about these endemic sponsors, these industry sponsors being bent over a barrel, so to speak, and asked and poked and prodded and saying, you're not paying us enough money. You're not paying us enough money. So told you some of them were getting out. Well, we lost a biggie there. It's a big one. And that's twofold. Ranger... really, they sold a lot of boats due to FLW. They had a really great relationship there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects, their day-to-day operations and things. But stepping up in their place and becoming the exclusive sponsor to replace Ranger's Phoenix Boats. The guys right up the road here, Winchester, Tennessee, Mr. Klaus and the gang up there, really, really good guys. Build a great product, and the guard is changing a little bit, so a new look. But they actually replaced TH Marine as the title sponsor of the BFLs. TH Marine not going to be the title sponsor anymore. Interesting times. I think the press release still said presented by T.H. Murray. But also notable, on the high school deal, no sponsor. Bass Pro Shop's out as well. It was the Bass Pro Shop's high school series or whatever. No Bass Pro logo on that. Interesting. Bass Pro, Ranger, all tied together. Somebody got... it would be easy to piece together that somebody got upset. But, it's crazy. It's crazy, and I have no doubt that those guys can sell some non-endemics to replace all this. We've talked about that a million times on here, but strange times, man, strange times. Ranger, they've always given away boats at the Costas. They're going to give away Phoenixes at every Costa event. It was like 27 boats, who knows? Ranger, every FLW staff person basically had a Ranger boat. They supplied all the boats for the BFL All-American, 50-something boats. Is that going to be the case now? When you make the BFL All-American, are there going to be furnished boats like there have been for however many years that they've been having it forever? It's very interesting. All these details will come out. But, congrats to the guys at Phoenix. Like I said, class act company, class act people, and they got an opportunity and they took it. And they got in there. But, it's just interesting how this all played out, to say the least. And I'm not saying I said it was going to happen. I'm just saying I said it was going to happen. So I'll drink to that. I'm not claiming to be smart. I'm just claiming to, know bullcrap. I know useless things, people. That's what I'm getting at. I know useless things. But wild times with FLW. Something else I saw this week that and really, let me get this feller's name here. Want to make sure I get this right. Hang on now. Preston Craig, Mr. Preston Craig, shout out to Preston. Preston won the TBF, the Bass Federation National Championship, back earlier this spring, which was ran by FLW. The TBF partners with FLW, and you get to go to the Forrest Wood Cup when you win that, and you get to, I think you make the BFL All-American through that, and you automatically qualify for the FLW Tour, but you earn the Living the Dream package. Living the Dream package, which is a boat and truck and all expenses paid and all that good stuff, entry fees, and Preston threw up a Facebook post that says, feeling angry with MLF right now. It's earlier this week, and somebody says, why? And he says, the new owners aren't honoring any contracts and aren't going to pay their part of the entry fees from the package I won to fish the FLW Tour or the Pro Circuit. Only the TBF was honoring their side. What I found out later this week through some things, because they were getting roasted, because that's a lot of members. It's like 30,000 people fish that TBF. Lots of eyeballs. Lots of wallets right there. And, they backpedaled on it. And I saw on a post on FLW site that they absolutely indeed will be honoring that. So I say good for Preston for getting it out of them. Now, if the guys that finished up well in the Costa Championship, that thought they were getting to go to the Forrest Wood Cup, that thought they were at least earning a $10,000 check for that, let alone a chance to fish for $300,000, let alone getting a chance to fish for a prestigious title. Andrew Upshaw, Matt Pangrek, Travis Manson, some other guys, they don't get anything. They don't get anything. And I don't know what's going to be done about that, but it's not right. They supported that trail. That's something you shoot for. They finished up really high. We're going to get Upshaw on again here pretty soon to talk about this, but hope that MLFLW, hope that they do something about that. That's garbage in my opinion. But I made a joke this week, but at the rate of the backpedaling, because it was like, here's the new format. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. Here's the jersey. You're going to wear our logos. No. We're just kidding. The only thing they haven't backpedaled on is those entry fees. It's the only thing they haven't backpedaled on. And I've heard this from sponsors as well, that they're like, give us more money. Wait, you can pay the same. And then most sponsors are like, yeah, shove it. we're out, or we're going to pay less. So a lot of backpedaling going on. And I think that, when you take on something like this and you try to act like you are the savior of a dying business, and you try to strong arm, I think that sometimes you realize that maybe that business wasn't in such bad shape after all, and they had some really solid relationships that didn't need to be burned down. But, that's just how it goes. That's how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of relationships, there's a relationship in my life, professionally and personally, that I really, really appreciate. And that's what these guys right here. Starbright. Wait a second. Another bottle. Startron. The fine folks at Starbright Solutions down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I actually got to talk to El Presidente, Mr. Gregor Dornow, this week, telling me, how much he's appreciating everything coming on LBL. We're going to try to do a couple traveling circuses together this spring, and I can't freaking wait. Some saltwater stuff, but, great people. Support the people that support this industry and things like this, because this is not your typical, definitely not your typical media type thing. So for these guys to support my craziness and my outspoken, opinions, it's awesome. So Starbright, Startron, who are also Bassmaster sponsors and MLF sponsors, so oddly enough. But this is truly some of my favorite stuff in the world, the Ultimate Boat Guard. This stuff, you spray it on, you wipe it off, and it makes your boat look like you washed it. And my boat's never, really that clean. But that stuff right there, it's a spray on wax, basically. Just absolutely makes it bling. So Ultimate Boat Guard. I'm going to pick a winner today. Throw down in the comments if you want some Ultimate Boat Guard. I'm going to give away 5 bottles. I'm going to pick 5 people. This is Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. This is Christmas. Merry Christmas to all. You all get some Starbright. But yeah, if you want some Ultimate Boat Guard, drop a comment below and I will pick 5 lovely people. So big shout out. Y'all love my shout outs. Shout out to Startron, Starbright. I really, really, really appreciate it. Working on a couple things for the next few episodes. Before we get our guest on here, I want to do a little housekeeping. Let me send a text here. I feel so bad because I've had to reschedule this about 15 times with BP today. But I got a really interesting message today. Really interesting message. Just awesome to hear the support that this podcast is getting. But Rob, big shout out to Rob at Lunkers TV, reached out to me, Guggen Squad fame, and told me he liked the podcast, and we got to throwing back and forth on some things. And I think I'm going to get Rob to come on. So we're going to get to hear Guggen life from a Guggen himself. I know I talk a lot about the paradigm shift in the industry, how things have changed with the popularity of YouTube fishermen and social media in general, and nobody knows it better than those guys. They're controversial in the fishing world at times. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions, but I want Rob to come on. He's an opinionated dude about a lot of things, and I think it'll be a good time. So we're going to try to get Rob on here in the next couple of weeks to talk some mess and see what he thinks about all this craziness going on in the fishing world right now. From another perspective, a non-tournament angler's perspective. Even though those guys, a lot of them do, a couple of them, especially fish tournaments. Rob, I know, used to run some events, but yeah, I really appreciated that. A guy, he's like, hey man, I came across your podcast and reached out. So much respect for that and the kind words. So hopefully we'll be talking to Rob sooner than later. But right now, we're going to try to call the one, the only, let's see if we can get him here. Ladies and gentlemen, exciting phone ringing.
Hello.
BP.
What is going on?
So here's the deal. You know me well enough to know that I'm a little all over the map, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to agree.
No surprise there.
You didn't have to agree with that. But when I text you 5 minutes, it was more like 2.5.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for the 2.5. I'm over here like scrambling, trying to find the connector to my headphones and all that.
I'm sorry. Brandon Palaniuk, ladies and gentlemen, again, joining us in the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill. I need some kind of jazzy sponsor name for the call-in guest on the blah, blah, blah hotline. What? Any suggestions? BP, you're the marketing genius.
Ooh.
If you name it and it sticks, it's yours forever. So do you want it to be called the Brandon Palaniuk Hotline? The BMP Fishing Hotline?
No. See, I was gonna throw like a sponsor plug in there for you, but then I was like, yeah, I don't know exactly who he's with for next year and who he's not with. So
well, I just announced I'm going to be with Starbright again next year. It's the only Starbright has sponsored LBL for 2 years now, and they actually called yesterday, the owner, and was really excited about everything going on with the LBL. So they'll be back next year. We'll come up with a good one.
Let me ask you this question: Do you have a wheel sponsor for next year?
I at the moment, that is up in the air.
Okay. See, I was gonna say such and such rolling on.
I got you. Oh, it's beautiful.
The hotline. So if you don't, you probably should.
I should. I'm probably going to reach out to another wheel company if the current wheel company, Vision Wheel, decides that they don't love me anymore. But I was actually with those guys doing some filming this week, so we'll see. They're just kind of into that, into the tournament game. They got in it through me, really, and they're still interested in that. So I think that they'll. I'll give them your number because with me being out of tournaments, I don't know how interested they are in just YouTube life and podcasts. But we'll see. We'll see. So, dude, last time we talked to you, you were in an airport, rushed to get to Ohio to sit in a tree stand. So we need an update on how tree stand life was.
Well, let's see. Tree stand life was not as good as your son's life was this evening.
Yeah, he's cheating. He's got a rifle, and he's in a big shooting house. So, but still epic and awesome, but a little different.
So, I would say for me, tree stand life was a new experience. I think we talked about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, I had never sat in a tree stand. So, long story short on that one. That was kind of when all the madness was going down. Yes. And I'm actually thankful that it was going down that week, sitting in a tree stand. And I'm buddies with Brad Knight.
Yeah.
He sat in a lot of tree stands, and he always be telling me oh yeah, I call it tree stand therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I never really understood it because I don't really like to sit still when I'm hunting. I kind of got a bad habit of wanting to know what's over the next ridge and over the next ridge. And I got to give it to the guy sitting in the tree stand. There is something different about it that also has some of those similarities of why I think hunting is special. But there's something about sitting there and letting nature happen around you.
Yeah.
That's really special. And one day, in the midst of all this, for whatever reason, I just forgot my phone sitting on the table at the rental house we were at, and had nothing. Had zero technology.
Wow.
And nothing, and sat in a tree stand all day long, and it brought a lot of clarity.
I can imagine.
And so I was actually thankful for all of that.
Swindle called it mind medicine. That's what he calls it. And I think that's beautiful. Mind medicine when he's in a tree stand. And we talked about that last week on here. And I'm like, that immediately grabbed me. Of course, Gerald's always going to come up with terminology for something. that's better than anybody else, I feel like, at the time. And truly, he made a post with a selfie in a tree stand that said mind medicine. And I was like, and I wrote it down when I saw, I was like, because I was working on my little note sheet to interview him. And I was like, mind medicine, that's beautiful. And it makes so much sense. So I totally get that, man.
Yep, 100%. But, what everybody's probably wondering, no, I did not fill my freezer anymore full.
Not that week you didn't, but you did last week.
That week. I did last week, I guess.
Yeah, it was later part of the week, right?
Shooting an elk. Shot an elk in Montana.
And you had Tiff with you, right?
I did. That was the first.
That's cool.
First big game animal that she has seen get shot.
Does she enjoy it? I'm trying to get my wife to go, just sit in a deer stand. But did she enjoy it? I know you guys are adventurous and you've been all over the world and back, and you like to hike and things like that. Does she enjoy the hunt?
She does.
That's awesome.
She doesn't like to be cold.
Well, neither
and
do
it
I.
was -9 that morning.
Oh, yeah,
so,
pass.
I got to give her props that she's got out of the truck with
no
me.
No kidding.
But it's different than sitting in a tree stand, because when you're moving and you're hiking up and down mountains, and you don't get that cold.
No.
It's when you stop and you sit, and that's when you start to get cold. So it was just a really cool experience. The story behind it, that's a memory that we'll be able to make or keep forever. And then I got my mom and my stepdad over here on Friday, and we spent 8.5 hours having a couple drinks and processing that whole entire elk.
That's awesome.
It's something I like to do. So I think I even sent you a picture of that.
Yeah, you did. And I was jealous because Brad Knight has, over the last couple of years, has fed me elk steaks on tour. And I'm going to miss that about as much as anything this year. BK hooking me up in his camper with some elk steaks. He was always throwing those around. I was telling, it's funny you say, and I was thinking about you in this moment. I was field dressing the deer that Charlie shot this evening, and we're talking and we're going through the motions, and he and my kids, one of my really close friends from my hometown owns a deer processing business. And so we have become really spoiled to that notion of, well, we shot one, we take him to the processor. And when I was growing up, and my dad does it now, he's lazy like I am, and so he's just like, takes them. And I enjoy processing my own deer, but it's like you said, and you're like, man, 8 hours, of course, that's an elk, but with a deer, it takes a long time too. I mean, there are a lot of people that are really good at it, but if you take your time, I mean, you're several hours into this. And of course, Charlie's got school tomorrow, I've got work, and it's 60 degrees outside. You would really be up all night taking care of it, but there's really something that is missed in this day and time with the processing services. And I'm glad my buddy really, he told me he took like 60-something deer in this weekend. It's just insanity. It's insane up here and in southern Tennessee, but there's something missed in that. But Charlie, as we field dressed the deer, he said, hey, don't people hang these up? I swear. He's 15 and he's hunted with me for the last few years, and he's taken like 3 or 4 deer, and this is only his second buck ever, and first animal he's ever taken by himself, sitting by himself in a stand. So it was a really special moment, and we were really geeked out. And he's like, don't people hang these? I was like, yes, Charlie, to process them, to clean, skin them. And he's like, oh, okay. All they know is shoot deer, field dress deer, put deer on trailer, take to the processor, get summer sausage. I mean, really, or get hamburger meat or whatever. So I think it's really cool that you do that, because people do that with elk too. I mean, obviously, that's a big business too. But it's, guys like Adam Greentree, Cameron Haynes, those guys, Steven Ranella, those guys are really cool follows on Instagram, folks, if you're not. But they do all their own processing like that. And it makes me feel like less of a man when I see you doing that. And I know those guys do it too. And I'm just throwing them in the back of the truck and taking them to my buddy.
But I mean, you're better off doing that than letting it hang out there at 60 degrees.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
So
For sure.
So,
but
I mean,
but yeah,
it's
but I
better
thought about
that
BP. I thought about the big pile of elk meat picture that I got sitting on the table. I was like, yeah, I'm really letting my kid down here. I feel like not taking him back and going, all right, we're going to skin this thing out till midnight. Come on, let's go. We're going to do this. But well, that's awesome, dude. I'm glad that got you some meat for the freezer for, let's see, what are you doing next year? What are you, oh yeah. You're fishing the Elite Series.
Oh yeah, that thing.
That thing. Well, congratulations. I haven't got to officially tell you on the podcast. I know we've texted, but congratulations, because I know for a million different reasons that's a very tough decision. Same thing I talked to Gerald about. It's not one that was taken or made lightly. It wasn't taken lightly by some folks either, but it was not made lightly. I know you told over it, and we discussed that, and you're definitely back and forth about it. And for me, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, does it? And I hate the terminology just because it's cliche, but it does for me. Looking at it, especially your situation and Gerald's too, it definitely comes full circle for me. That you're going back there, and you epitomized the Bassmaster dream more than anybody ever has. Take out Van Dam, and no, this is not really a comparison, but I'm saying throw out these guys. All the other names. You started truly at the bottom of the ranks with this organization, as far down as you can get, and just busted your butt all the way up to the freaking Classic, and then right to the Elites. And you were such a swing for the fences, which I hate also, but I'll say that. But just throwing it all out there for one spot or one type deal that you thought you could hit a home run on and win. And dude, you've done it several times and had these phenomenal events. And me personally, and you did fine with the BPT. You caught them, you made some cuts, you had some great events. But I just never felt like watching you, because I watch all your videos. I keep up with everything you do. I love me some BP. And it just never, to me, watching you in that format just never felt like your video series did when you were on the Elites. And I don't mean any offense by that, but it just, the videos weren't as like, I don't know, the videos were great, but it was like that drama, that 5 big fish, what Brandon's known for. I don't know, man. I guess I say all that to say it's exciting, and I think with all the comments I'm reading on my own social media and on this podcast and the messages I'm getting, people telling me, hey, man, have Brandon back on. Love to hear you talk to him. I think everybody's excited because they feel the same way. And I'm not knocking the other deal. I don't want anybody to don't get that twisted at all. It's just a different deal, and you and I have talked about that on here. It's a different deal. But are you excited now that the dust has settled? Now that the wolves are howling and the sheep are doing whatever they do? Are you excited? Can you be excited now?
Yes, yeah, and it's a different excitement, and I still don't know that I've found like all the words for it, because I feel like I want to say that I'm more comfortable now, but since the very beginning, I've always told myself not to get comfortable, because then you lose that drive.
Yeah.
And so like being comfortable is not really the right word, or content, but it's similar to that, right? Like I just feel like that's where I should be. Like, it's like where I can just be who I feel like I should be, is like the best way I can put it. If I look back at all of the times I spent sleeping in the back of the truck chasing this, like going way back, like
way back
before the Elites, back when I was still in high school, and I'd take off for 30 days in the summer, and I'd sleep in the back seat of my truck chasing tournaments around, and I would go and I'd buy 10 cheeseburgers from McDonald's for $10, and I would throw those in my boat cooler on ice and live off those for a week. Like all of that stuff and that process, and chasing the highest level that BASS had to offer, right? Like I was always focused on that. And I fished a fair amount of FLW stuff and the TBF stuff and had good success there. But when it came down to it, my dream was always to fish the classic, fish the elites, win Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year, win the classic. Like those were dreams, right? Win the Bass Nation Championship. And I think through like all of those struggles and process, it became such a huge part of who I was or who I am that I couldn't get away from it. And even when I left physically, it was like my heart never left. Right? Like I struggled with the decision last year. I was one of the last guys to make it. And I'll be the first one to say that I tried to make an educated decision, and I don't regret the decision because I learned more from it than I think I would have if I would have stayed. I learned more about myself. I learned more about the organizations on both sides. I like just the overall
ins and outs.
And, just the overall oversight of the fishing industry and the way that I want to go about my life, I guess.
Yeah.
Is I learned a lot about that. And so I don't take it for granted. I don't regret it. And I know there's a lot of talk out there of like, oh, you know, you guys committed for 3 years. You guys should have stayed committed. But then you can go back and you can say it on the same sense of like, I was committed to the elites for 72% of my life.
Yeah.
And chased it and left. And I felt like that I just had to go back to that. It was just something that I couldn't get away from. And you talk about like in my videos, right, like where the production quality is great. And I enjoyed the year and I had fun, didn't have the same drive and passion. And that scared me.
Yeah, I couldn't see that through your videos, but I understand what you're saying. It's just so different, man. It's so different. It's not right or wrong. It's just different, and that's what Swindle has talked about too, is familiarity and and family, and there are things like the blast off. And the emotion around that, of course, he's like me. He's just a redneck that likes to try to have a boat race too. That's what he said on here. He's like, "Yeah, I like racing boats." And now he's got a new boat to race, so he's excited. But I think in that there's just so many things that were missing from your life and from his life and from a lot of guys' lives. And I think there are. And there are more guys that wish they could make that decision, and I think that there are guys that are extremely happy where they're at, and we know both. You and I both know. We both know both, and so I think that you just have to pick what's best for you, what's best for your family, and that leads me to my next thing, which is. You said you learned, and Gerald said this too. You learn who's looking out for you and who's not too. And I think in this, the negative that what little negative I've seen, which is not much, about you guys going back and where it's came from, it's disappointing, and it's I wasn't real surprised with some of it, but with where it was coming from, and I've talked about that already, so I don't want to rehash it, but were you surprised with some of the comments that were made from colleagues?
I was actually surprised more so on how overwhelmingly positive it was. That actually shocked me more because I knew there would be some backlash.
Yeah, of course.
And backlash from both sides, right? There's going to be
that's a good
people
point.
On the elite side, within the staff, like there's going to be people on both sides that think it's a bad idea.
Right.
And I get that. But there's also like fans and stuff from both sides that support it, right? People that come out and say, we are fans of you as a person, as an angler, and we're going to follow you and support you no matter what. That to me is awesome.
Yes.
And I take ownership for people being upset, and especially more so on the bass side of it, because I mean, like when we all left, a lot of that's personal, because as fishermen, we're passionate about this sport, whether you work in it or whether you fish in it. If you're attached to this industry somehow, it's because you're passionate about it. And when you're that passionate about something, you get hurt by that.
Mm-hmm.
And like people were emotionally hurt by that. And do you ever listen to Tyler Childers?
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
Yeah. So there's a line in the Tyler Childers song, and I'll probably misquote it right now, but it says it takes twice as long to build bridges you've burned.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like I've burned bridges because I never had anything bad to say about people. But just by leaving and like creating any sort of, emotional stress on somebody, it takes a while to build that back up, right? It's a trust thing.
Absolutely.
It's a relationship, and I understand that, and I take responsibility for that. So, I'm excited to get back with that group of guys. There's a lot of new guys, and then there's some guys that I'm really good friends with, and I'm excited to get in that and kind of see the positivity. That was one thing I heard a lot from some of the guys that I was still friends with, talking throughout the years, just how much positivity they have over there now.
Yeah, that's a sentiment I heard over and over and over, and that was really. Can you say, looking back, that you felt like there was a lot of negativity on your first several years over there before you left?
No,
because I never felt that. I don't
think there was a lot of negativity. I think it's just human nature that people want to see things continually progress.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why we don't still live in caves and beat animals down with big billy clubs.
Yeah.
Right. Like
which I think you could, by the way. I think you could probably do that, but that's neither here nor there.
Maybe that's a matter of opinion. But I think that there had been years where there wasn't as much progression. And that's why I think ultimately all of this is good, because however long it takes from here till all of this settles down, a lot of good will come from it.
And already has.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's created a lot of positive change. And so that's a good thing. And I think anytime you have a big shakeup like that, it really makes people think, and adjust, and it's a good thing.
I agree. I think that I think it's going to be an incredible year. And this is a cookie cutter question, but are you looking forward to those big smallmouth events more, or are you? Because I think the schedule's ridiculously good for next year, with a lot of really, like Lake Eufaula looks like that could be really fun, because there were some really good weights caught there this year, and a lot of local stuff I've been keeping up with, and I'm just like, yeah, they're going to smash them. So what event are you looking forward to the most, going back to your roots, five fish? What do you think?
I mean, no doubt, absolutely love the smallmouth events. I will always love those, because I love the areas. I love Clearwater, and I just love smallmouth. And we have some massive crowds up there.
Oh, yeah.
Waddington is some of the biggest crowds. And that's what I feed off of. Like, I feed off of people. And, like, having those fans I think is one of the most important things. Because without fans, none of us have a job.
That's right.
And the cool thing with fishing is that I believe it's all relative, and more so in a five fish format. But I've always believed this in the sense of like your excitement level. A 2-pounder on the St. Lawrence River does not mean the same thing as it does on the Sabine River.
Not at all.
But from your excitement level, from what it actually means to your progression in the standings and your finish, it does mean the same. Or like a 2-pounder at the Sabine would be a 4-pounder at the St. Lawrence River.
That's right.
And so in 2018, when we fished the Sabine, it was one of my favorite events because I continued to climb and make good decisions every day. I didn't have big weights. I had like 8 pounds, 10 pounds.
But that's crushing it there. It's all relative.
Something. Yeah, it's all relative, right? And so what I realized this year is that in a 5-fish format on somewhere like the Sabine River, I could get super pumped up about a 2-pounder. But on Table Rock, it was really hard for me to get pumped up about my 20th 2-pounder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because it's just different. And that passion and then you talk about like there's something that cannot be replaced by the moment when your weight is called on a scale.
Those moments, just moments, period.
Yes, you cannot replace that. And I'm a firm believer that is where dreams are made of, or that's where dreams are made. And that goes for every single dude that fishes professionally right now, no matter what circuit you are on.
Yeah.
At some point, you saw a guy win an elite event or a classic or the Forcewood Cup, whatever it may be. When all of us were trying to, strive to be a professional angler, well, I shouldn't say all because like Clun's been doing it since nearly the beginning, so maybe it was a little different for him. But all of us that have watched that, right, majority of the guys saw a major event where a guy's weight was put on a scale and called, and in that moment, his entire life changed.
Everything changed, yeah.
Right. All of the build up to that moment, and I know this from experience, when you win an event like that, every single thing in your life that was a struggle to get to that point flashes back. It's like a movie, and where it like rewinds and fast forwards super quick.
Yep.
It's like it just flashes back through every part of your life and then goes straight back, and there you are in that moment with tons and tons of people screaming and cheering you on.
And it erases, and Swindle said this so perfectly too, it erases all the bad days in an instant. Yep. All the days of getting up earlier than you want to, all the days of getting in bed late, all the days of fishing in 48-degree rain in 4-footers when you're like, yeah, this is not as cool as I thought it was when I was reading Bassmaster magazine and I thought this was a good idea.
You forget about all of it.
You forget about all of it in that moment. And I can't relate in any way to winning a major event. The only win that I ever had was as a co-angler. But at that time in my life, I was just getting back into the sport, competing. And when I won, my life was really at a low point and going through a lot of things. And, dude, whenever they called that weight, and I thought I had a chance coming in, and everybody's kind of blowing me up backstage like, man, I think you can win this. Like, in that moment, you're right. Like, it's just, and anytime I made cuts or anything like that on tour, it was like that too. When you weigh in front of the big crowd on the last days or the weekend cuts, everything flashes from club tournaments to just those moments of my dad taking me fishing, all that. So I totally get that. And that's what I missed watching BPT or, MLF in general, those moments, man. I know that when Joe Lee won, he was freaking ecstatic because he just put 100 G's in his pocket. Yeah. He just beat this incredible field of anglers. But on the other side of it, it's like, hey, Jordan, you just won. And there's nothing else. But then when Brian Latimer wins at Lake Seminole on the tour and he hits his knees, holding that trophy over his head, he's crying everything you can see everything that guy's worked for come out of him at one time. And so I'm excited that you're getting back to the moments, and I hope that the guys over there at the other side that can realize that and find a way to make that happen. I don't know if it fits, and I don't know if that's their priority or not. I don't know, but I think that is very important for the fans, and that's the negative comments you see that I think kind of kicks people away. But yeah, man, I'm super pumped for you, dude. I'm super proud of you as a person, as an angler, and you're a great guy and a class act. And I'm glad that you're making decisions for your family and you and Tiff, and I know that it's going to be good, man. I got to ask you one more thing because it has to be said, because Swindle said it right here at the end. Not to be too controversial, but. So you had to pay a very large fine, and we won't get into specifics on that. But, I mean, and Gerald made a point. He said it's more about that than it is the anglers. And, you did break a contract, but do you feel like, and you can answer this if you want to or not, do you feel like there should have been a fine for that, though? Because you guys kind of, without the anglers, that trail doesn't exist, right? It doesn't. So should you have to pay a fine to change your mind? That's kind of, I'm all over the place with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can look at it. And legally, could you have battled it? Yes.
Yeah.
Was it worth it to me? No. Because for me, once I made my mind up, I just wanted it to be done.
Yes.
And through this whole process, and by process I mean making my decision to go back. It wasn't like one day I woke up and said, you know what, I think I'm just going to go back to bass. Didn't quite work that way.
Right.
It's been like kind of months of vetting it out in my own mind, and I really stayed pretty closed off about it from anyone on the outside. It was really just conversations between me and Tiff. I didn't have any conversations about it with my own family. I had to call my family like 15 minutes before the press release came out and say, hey, this is going to be coming out. I just wanted you to hear it from me so you didn't hear it or see it
That's awesome.
on Facebook or something. But I really wanted to make that decision based on the things that I truly cared about and the things I valued. So that there's some people in this world that highly, highly value $1. I'm not one of those people.
Amen.
And it's taken me 32 years and however many days of my life to understand that. Don't get me wrong. We all need money to survive. And money allows you to do the things that you love to do and the things that you're passionate about, right? Like, I couldn't do what I love to do and fish without money. But the decisions that I make to decide how much money or how little money someone makes, for me, basing that purely on financial gain it just doesn't work. Because for whatever reason, the way that I'm built, I fight it personally every time, even if it makes business sense. And I've made 2 decisions in my life, or like in my fishing career, that were based on potential financial gain. And I probably made money in both of them. But I battled them personally every time. And this was kind of one of those decisions, right, where I made the decision last year, not because I knew I was going to make more money, but looking at the platform and the potential of it and all those things, like, all these things that were being told. I had so many opinions coming in from so many directions. I thought, this is probably a good move. There's really good possibilities here that we can build something that's really big for everyone that's fishing professionally, and that has a really good system it allows the guys that are coming up to do really well. But a lot of that was based on other people's opinions, and for me, not wanting to miss out on the potential, financial gain of it. And I finally had to come to terms with myself, because I still thought that, right? Like, even knowing that dollar is not the number one thing I value, I still battled it when I made this decision, right? Like, is this a smart move? Like, is it going to cost me a bunch of money? And I had to vet through that myself. Like, that was
Wow.
like a personal growth thing that I had to vet through and say, at the end of the day, if all my buddies over there are making $1 million 2 years from now, I'm going to be pumped for them. And if I'm living happy and making 50 grand a year, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's what it came down to. And I had to make that decision, knowing based on like what my personal values were.
I'm so glad you said that. And I'm just, that is, I know you, and I respect that about you. Hearing you say that, man, I've had to make some decisions myself and some things, and it's not easy to walk away from something that looks like a big shiny quarter, so to speak, or it's being told to you that that's the case, or what have you. And like you said, it may end up being that way, but for me to be fulfilled in life,
and it doesn't mean that someone else is wrong.
No, not at all.
It just means that they're different. I mean,
they're
how
different.
boring would it be if we all walked around like robots?
Exactly. That's what I've said about the little podcast that could here in the last few weeks, when it's made people upset. It's like, why? If I was status quo, I would be boring. If I thought the same, as everybody else, I wouldn't, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. That's just never been me, man. I like to walk outside the lines. That's just always been me. So no, it's if that's what you're about, that's fine. For me to be fulfilled, though, especially this fall with everything that's happened in life, I do believe there are greater things out there, and that there are more things to life than chasing a dollar. Now, granted, like you said, it keeps the lights on.
Yep.
I ain't going to turn down a check now. Any of y'all listening want to sponsor Low Budget Live, hit me up at lowbudgetlive1@gmail.com. But I'm not going to turn it down. I'm just saying it's different. It's a different look, man. You need, there are a lot of things in life you need more than chasing a dollar. And I think we all get caught up in it, and especially in this world, and I think in the fishing world. And you look at these guys that are divided and things now, and it's really disheartening, because, I mean, like I know, you'll have guys get upset because the same logo pops up on your jersey one year after they had it on theirs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff gets really tricky sometimes. Like, hey, man, you're coming in on my turf a little bit. I mean, it's a shame how all this can play out at times. So, man, I really respect you for saying that, dude, and that's awesome to hear. It's really awesome to hear tonight. You had sent me a text about something, and I'm going to text you after this. So we're a little private, LB. After LB, I'm going to text you something. But about that situation right there, that really that was great. That was great, dude. So, all right, buddy. I think we killed this. 38 minutes of your precious time. Tell Tiffany I'm so sorry. I'm going to send her a Christmas present.
Deal.
Actually, you know what? Full disclosure, don't have my wife anything for Christmas yet, so I can't be sending Tiff anything yet unless my wife is the hardest person to shop for ever, and I don't know what to get her. So if you guys have any ideas out there, drop them in the comments.
Yeah, if you do get Tiff a Christmas present, you want to just go ahead and put my name on it?
Yeah, sure thing.
Dual present.
Yes, that works great. I will probably screw it up because I'm notorious for screwing up Christmas for my wife. And for like 5 years in a row, I really wrecked it. terrible. And then last year I bought a big ring, and it was like, oh, you're the best. And now this year, just started all over again. It's like that ring didn't even matter.
Yeah, do something like that and totally redeem yourself.
Exactly, but not now. Now I'm right back in the ditch, crawling myself out again. I got to come up with something bigger than a ring that was one of the most expensive pieces of jewelry I've ever purchased. I had to sell a kidney. But not now. Now it's like, what are you getting me again this? What do you get me this year? I'm like, a lawnmower. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know what to do, BP. Oh, me. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this, and I wish you all the luck in the world next year, dude.
Thanks.
And I know we'll talk, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Anything you want to plug on LBL before you get off?
Nah, I don't need to be plugging anything.
No plugs. I like it.
Just appreciate people coming on here.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Y'all give BP a holler on Instagram if you aren't already following him, and YouTube. I know if you're here, you're already doing all that. But go ahead, just unfollow him and refollow him. Just make him feel good. Tell him LBL sent you. All right, BP. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yep. Chat with you later.
All right, thanks, buddy. Brandon Palaniuk right there. How cool is that? That guy is he's a super, super class act. And I found it really interesting. All that about money, and that he's not driven by that. And we all are ultimately driven by a dollar, but we have to. You have to survive. But man, it's really cool to hear, and it's also interesting. I think he's kind of talking about, and I'm putting words in his mouth, but being led down a path a little bit by people, and I think the thing with MLF that you have is. It's a dozen or 14 guys that are anglers that fish MLF that are also owners on MLF. It's like Edwin and Shaw, Tim Horton, Boyd and Gary Klein and Mark Davis and Alton Jones. There's a few. I don't know all of them, but there's a few. And so, those guys are kind of, you got to think that last year they're kind of seeding planting the seeds. Hey, this is the thing, and this is going, and whether or not, some of the guys knew those guys were, actual owners in the organization as well. Kind of laying all that stuff out there. So it's really interesting to see. It's not an organization that's just owned by, a couple people. You actually have angler involvement in that, which is also interesting that anglers would want to fine a guy for just changing his mind and wanting to get out of there, Very interesting. Very interesting. A lot of things with BP there. Do not forget to comment below. I'm going to pick 5 folks. We're going to send you some boat guard from the folks at Starbright. Probably going to do another giveaway here in the month of December, just to show my thanks. I can't express how amazing it is to hear from you guys and gals out there, Low Budget Live, the #1 at gmail.com, the emails, Instagram messages. I'm trying to get caught up. Facebook messages. I suck at Facebook. YouTube comments, all the things that you guys are throwing at me, telling me how much you're enjoying LBL, telling me how much you're enjoying the channel. Lots of things to come in the next 3 weeks here. Right after the first of the year, we're going to have the first traveling circus for next year. It's already been filmed with my buddy Kyle Wood that works for FLW up in Minnesota. We did some frog fishing. That's going to be coming up. We've got the trip from Venice coming up that's going to drop, and lots more to come. Fixing to film a lot of things. So it won't always just be the podcast. I'm going to do the weekly podcast, but we're also going to have lots of fishing coming up. Right now it's just kind of a crappy time of year. Maybe taking a trip, though, here to do some fishing with Mr. Ben Milliken pretty soon down in Texas. Hopefully after Christmas, going to get down there and do some 6 cents cranking around, I hope, with Ben and maybe Stupid Darian, too. Not real sure, but thank y'all for everything. Thank you for listening. As long as you're listening, as long as you're enjoying it, I'm going to keep slinging it out there. If you've got anybody you'd like for me to reach out to get on, hit me up. Drop it in the comments. Send me an email. Shoot me an Instagram message. We'll see who we can get on here. Lots of people have reached out about wanting to come on, and I'm just trying to sort it all out right now. I talked with David Dudley today. We're going to try to get Dudley on, like to try to get Thrift. May do that next week. But thank you guys so much. I'm going to leave you with my song once again, Biloxi Blues. For those of you asking, the album is 64. You can get it on iTunes. Thank y'all so much. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week.
Some town to Tupelo, I never could make it last. Spanish moss and Civil War ghosts, well, I'm gonna leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter east or west. North, south, wherever the wind blows, I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name, and I don't care, no, I don't care. Headed my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.